Hey everybody, I'm Adam, the artist. This is Egum. He's a different kind of artist. It's a little chilly willy out here. We're gonna go inside, right? Let's go draw some stuff. Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into the new episode of my AC Draw Stuff experiment. Today I am going to tackle some two-point perspective. Thanks to Mallory Jane on YouTube. I want to make sure I give her credit. She's got an amazing channel. Please go check it out. She recently posted a short where she demonstrated in a minute what I'm about to do in 40 minutes. And granted, I'm going and I'm adding my own touch to it. But this was new to me. Perspective is something I've always struggled with. So thank you very much, Mallory Jane, for the tutorial. I'm glad I could share it on my channel. Perspective is just the direction of your piece, where we as the viewer are looking, and what we see. And with two-point perspective, instead of just a flat, you're looking at a doorway of a store or a character. In two-point perspective, there are two directions that your vision can look at. And so I started with 2 points, one on each side, as you can see that I drew, just little dots on either side of the paper. I connected them with a horizontal line, and then I drew, just eyeballed it, split it in half with a vertical line, and then basically connected the dots into what you see, the diamond. Now from there I'm drawing my buildings, and with the perspective, the 2-point perspective, you're looking down if you're standing at the corner of a intersection, you're looking down one street and then you're looking down the other street. Those are the two perspectives that we're looking at today. So the buildings are going to go down one way and then they're going to go down the other way. And so I'm drawing my vertical lines for my buildings just in no particular rhyme or reason. And I'm adding trees and I'm adding landscape that you would think, whether you're standing there drawing this in real life or from your imagination out of your brain, where would they be? Where would the trees be in accordance to the perspective lines that we've drawn with the 2 points that we set up? And those points and the lines serve as such a great guidelines for the dimension of the piece, to make sure that we've got the perspective correct.
You enjoying your program? That's good, girl. Yeah. That's good, girl.
We got to make sure we check in with the little ones. When Egum and I recorded that intro this morning, we were surprised it was so sunny, but we were surprised at how cold it was. So we ran out on the back porch and then quickly came back in. He was shivering quite a bit, fierce there. And Mother Fluffer, she's a lounger. She's a lounger and a half. She loves those blankets. So here we're drawing the doors and the windows, and when you draw these doors and windows on a perspective piece, is what I learned, is that you want to stick with those perspective lines. If you don't go in the same direction and make them parallel to each other, they can come off as a bit wonky. With that said, anything goes. If you want to make them make wonky windows, if you want to make your lines bow out for the buildings to look a little distorted, that's stuff that I like to play around with as well. But right now, for me, I'm learning this, and until I get these skills down of the perspective, I'm trying to adhere to a little bit more of a stringent style, very meat and potatoes, I guess, if you would. Stick to the perspective, the lines that I drew, instead of drawing outside the lines. Now I drew a sidewalk there that also goes along with the buildings, and I love neighborhood drawings. I live in a neighborhood that's extremely walkable, and it's got all kinds of commerce, stores, cafes, restaurants, all within right outside my door, and I can walk to. And I know so many of the people that live in the neighborhood who have stores, who visit frequently. I love the neighborhood feel of where I live, and I try to bring, that's something I want to do more of, is bring that into my art more and more. Over Christmas, I did some, if you look at my Instagram at AC Draw Stuff, I did a lot of scenes, just scenery. I guess today we're calling it, urban sketching, urban drawing. And it's so, when you can draw an environment like that, there's a warmth that comes with it. Being able to see what's in those windows and the lights on in an apartment or in a home. And then what you see right now is my own touch that I'm adding. I'm putting Egum and Mother Fluffer and Mooj into the scene, walking down the street, bumping into each other, saying hi, meeting, getting ready to go to the park. They're getting ready to get into some kind of trouble, and I love drawing them so much, and I cannot wait for them to be in a book to share with everybody, but which will happen soon enough. So here I decided, instead of just the buildings and the block where we live, which this is just a fictitious block, actually looks very much like Mallory Jane's. Maybe that's somewhere where she lives. But I wanted to do the intersection to give it a little bit more life, to show a little bit more landscape, to show a little bit more of the park areas. So I'm done with my loose sketching here. Now I'm getting into my inks, and this is my number one Pigma Micron ink that works pretty well for this size of this drawing, because this is a very small drawing. I'm drawing on 5.5 by 8.5 inches. That's my sketchbook, so everything's pretty compact here. But you'd be surprised at what you can fit in to a scene. I'm sorry, I said at number one. This is my .005, which is much smaller. That makes a lot more sense. My Pigma ink, .005, for anybody who's interested in using one as well. So throwing the inks into this picture, going over the loose sketch of the pencil, I'm still sketching. I'm still using that small, tiny ink pen to sort of sketch over the lines. Everything is still very, very loose. And don't be afraid to stay loose. I think that's the best way to approach anything that you're going to end up coloring. When you're doing more of just a pencil and ink, and that's as far as you're going to go, you want things to be a little bit more solid, a little bit more defined. But when I'm going to come back in here and use my Copic sketch markers to color this in. You can still be pretty loose with the inks as well. And again, I'm going to end up erasing my pencils underneath the inks. And when I do that, it's going to make the drawing look a little bit more stark and give a little bit more room for the colors that I'm going to be using. Now my street here is, talk about wonky, my street here is a little bit, could use some help. I didn't use a reference, and I know the crosswalk should be a little bit closer to the intersection, but it serves its purpose. The perspective of the direction of the street still goes along with the 2 points that we initially started with, which, if you think about it, is amazing that you just put down 2 points, connect them, draw a line down the center of it, and you get your 2-point perspective. That line down the center, by the way, could be moved right or left on the horizon any way you want to show one perspective more than over the other, to favor one over the other. Now here with my fine .005 pen, I'm drawing the roof and the details of the roof, the thatching, or the whatever you call those scales. the word escapes me right now. But and then I'm detailing even more the doorways, the windows. I like to try my best, because sometimes I slack off a little bit on the drawing end, to put in as many details as possible. Sometimes I try to, I enjoy it very much, but sometimes I either forget to, or I get carried away with one detail over the other. So, these are windows and doors. You want them to have depth. You want them to have not just be squares on the side of a building. So I'm drawing the borders, the pane, the borders of the windows, a little bit of there's curtains in there. There's shades right there that I'm drawing right now that are half pulled. It also gives you a little bit more of shading when you do the details, the fine details. Everything matters, but then again, it's the intent of what you do add. So details, if you're not a detail person, that's fine. But whatever you do decide to put into your art, give it everything that you've got. And I think you'll be much, much more happy. Now, I wanted to make this, in hindsight, I would have made these more businesses, sort of like little kitschy, maybe a bookstore or something like that. On this one, I made 2 pubs because in my neighborhood, you do have a lot of little pubs and cafes and stuff like that. I decided to call this one Tales, and it's got a window, and this whole building, this block, ended up looking, which I like. It's got a lot of character by the time we get to the end of it, but it ended up looking a little more run down than I wanted. It's got this neighborhood bar here, which a lot of the locals would probably visit, and of which we have plenty here in my neighborhood. And then another part of the rundownedness, which wasn't intentional, it was just to add character to the buildings. What I'm doing here is drawing exposed brick where the paint would have chipped off the side of the building. And this is a technique that I first really noticed from Inky Paper House on Instagram and YouTube. She's an amazing, I believe her name is Una, an amazing artist. Go check her stuff out. She did a piece a few months ago that just really I was enamored with, and it was another one that I homaged, and it's on my Instagram. And I was very flattered that she chimed in and said how lovely it was. So I'm drawing exposed brick here with a little bit of the cracks, and I'll come in and color that, and it'll show a little bit more when I'm done coloring it. And then here's the second pub of the 2 pubs. This is Pooey's. And I heard that word first from my sister a couple days ago when she asked her dog if he needed to go pooey.
You crazy boy! You crazy boy!
I had to check back in on Egu, make sure he's warmed up. He gets cold very easily, so we don't stay out very, very long when it is cold. And usually he has his jacket on. He's got 2 jackets that make him look very stylish. He loves that yellow ball, by the way. All right, so here's our first colors. This is my Copic sketch marker, the Sea Green. That's a G12 for anybody who's interested in picking one up. If you like the color, it's a G12. Copic does not sponsor my videos, although if anybody out there wants to point them in my direction, that'd be fun. Because I do love using these. They're very much like paint in the way that they act like watercolors. They will bleed and they'll spread around, and you can blend them. This pale sort of pastel green is a very calming color, and I wanted the foremost forefront building to be, that's the first one you're going to see. It's the one that's going to be the most dynamic. It's the one that's going to have the most detail. I wanted it to be a nice piece to the eye, something nice to look at. So I chose this sea green to color that building in. And with these Copic markers, you'll see, there it is. It's the G12 sea green. The Copic markers they can be very bold, whereas watercolors sometimes you can ease up on the boldness of the colors. Where exactly what I'm talking about here with this pink. This is the pure pink, and then I'm using canary yellow, and they're both the pure pink is definitely much more bold than the green or the yellow. That yellow is almost like a lemon. So be aware that these Copics, I mean, they cover very well, and a lot of them are just very bold colors, and you can't really tone them down. So fortunately, Copic makes a lot of shades of any color, like probably 5 to 10 shades of any blue or pink or green. And I've got all the numbers there. If you pause the video, you can see what I'm using. I think I missed a couple there. This one is one that I use a lot because it's Mooge's eyebrows. This is the color. It's the perfect color for our eyebrows. This is dull ivory, and I wanted to make the buildings at the bottom on the street level all sort of uniform, give it sort of that San Francisco vibe where you've got the different colored buildings, like the row houses, and then have something that unifies them with that the dull ivory. Here's the dark green. I believe this was the moss that I used, and that's for the rooftops. Now again, I'm kind of going traditional with the colors on the buildings in a way. Feel free, go bonkers. I think the more bonkers something looks color-wise, the more unique, and just reach out and branch out and do what feels right to you. So here for the trees, I've got I think this is my green apple. This is either yellowish green or green apple. Something bright at the bottom, for the base of them. And then I'm going to be shading them with darker greens as we go. Here I'm using another one that I use a lot. This is the chamois, I believe you say, E35. That's for the tree trunks. I'm also, again, going to come in with a darker one a little bit later with that. And I use the chisel end to make those tree trunks. Now this yellow I use a lot. I love it. It's a very powerful, bold yellow, Napoli yellow Y19 on the Copic chart for my windows to show that there's light and there's life going on inside. I want to make sure that it's, if you're sitting in a room like that, it's not going to be that bright, I don't think, or that dark of a yellow, but it does give a good effect of showing that a light is on. Now, if you're sitting in a room that's yellow, it's going to mess with your eyes. But now here I'm coming in with that brown, that same chamois, and I'm kind of detailing Igum. He's mostly black, but he's got these brown areas on him, on his arms and legs, and it's crazy how close the chamois brown and then the dull ivory and there's a third brown that I found, which is the walnut. They're the perfect colors for drawing Igum and Mooge. I love that they just fit so well. Now this is my brush, my Pigma ink brush. I don't use it often, but it gives me a finer point to get in there. That Igum that I'm coloring black right now is so small, as you can tell. It's the size of almost a tip of a pen, him. And so I wanted something that was going to be a little bit more loose with a brush tip and still have that powerful black, that bold black. Here's the walnut of Mooge's head. Again, just the perfect color for her. I'm looking at a picture of her right now, and you'll see her at the end of the video with the Mooge Productions, and it's just the perfect color for her. And I'm also using that same brown to give a bit of a dark shade and depth to the tree bark of the trees in the park here. Trees are tricky because no tree just has the trunk and then the leaves behind it. And for me, I still haven't learned quite how I want to portray my trees. I'm happy with these. I'm satisfied with how they are. but that's something I definitely want to work on in the future. Using that same brown for the doors here. And again, with the trees, it's just it's a matter of placement of branches, arrangement of the leaves, and thinking about how does a tree exist? How does it live? Now here I'm going back in with the bricks that I uncovered behind the paint there with little touches of red. I'm not filling them in totally with red because I'm also going to come back in with this brown and pull, while the red's still wet, pull that red into the brown so it's a brownish reddish mix. And it appears at first, you'll see I'm going to add even more detail to it, but right now it appears like a little bit too dark, and in some ways it is, but that's why I'm going to come back with my gel pen, my white gel pen, and sort of alleviate that and lighten it up, give it a little bit more detail so you can tell what's going on there. Back and forth, a lot of back and forth with the colors. You want to be able, you can't mix them when they're dry. You can kind of wake up Copics a little bit with other Copics and make them a little bit moist again, but when you apply them, they're really easy to blend and pull and manipulate, get different gradients. Here's the Tails pub sign, giving it a little bit of a pop with the blue, leaving the actual letters that say Tails white. And then it's time to color Mother Fluffer. Now she's got, this is another one that's pretty perfect orange that I found for her. I believe that is the tea orange. That's an E95. And she's a little grumpy little one, but she's also a very happy little cat. You saw these in my last two videos, my Tombow dual brush pens. It's a grayscale set, and I love these for shading. Now what I'm doing is I'm using a darker shade right here to just hit the borders of the building, right under the roof, right along the side, the edges of the building, maybe a little bit where the tree lines overlap over the buildings. I just want to show a little bit, using it to show a little bit of separation. Even though they're separated by colors, there's shadows on this block, in this neighborhood, that exist in real life. Between these buildings, you don't know. The more shading you use, not necessarily the better, but it's where you put it and how you place it is what I've learned. Now here's the shade just lighter than that one that I was using previously, just to color in the sidewalk. But you're gonna see I'm gonna use it again, and the more you go back, the more layers you use with these things, the darker it'll get. They do layer pretty well, which is also something you have to be careful of if you don't want areas to be too dark. A little bit of detail on the street. Now, one thing that you'll see me do later, I'm going to extend this street right there out, and I'm going to make the piece a little bit more of a square. With this piece and with a lot of pieces, this is my green apple, I believe, green, doing the grass. With a lot of my pieces, I finish them, and I look at it, and I go, there's something I'm not happy with, and I'll add more, I'll change something. But I think it's helpful to have a point where you just stop and you enjoy the piece as it is. But this one was definitely missing something, and you'll see later what I'm talking about. Now, these greenways, these grass areas, I didn't do a lot of detail with the grass itself because I just wanted the idea of, the idea comes across that here's these green patches in this neighborhood. Grass, great. But I will have to separate the trees from the grass, like right there. They blend, there's not enough contrast going on, and they blend a little bit too closely together. So that's something I'll come back in with my gel pens and my shading in a minute. And grass is something that's also, an aerial view like this, you get the point, it comes across. that's something another thing that I want to work on along with my trees. I guess the moral of the story is greenery or shrubbery that I kind of struggle with, but I definitely, it can add a lot to a piece, and backgrounds and foregrounds are something that I need to and really want to start working on more, especially when it comes to my character pieces, my 3D series, or when I do a Mujigoom cartoon piece. I want to start filling up the space. Blank space can work, and I like it. I like a white background, especially when you're telling a story in the foreground. You don't need a lot of background. But now here's where you can tell a little bit of what I'm talking about with the composition of the piece. Now once I go in here and I fill in these streets, you'll be able to see it even more, and you'll notice I'm covering up. I'm definitely going over the crosswalks, because I'm going to come back. I'm trying to avoid the yellow of the stripes in the road, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to use my my white pen, my Signa white pen, to bring out the white in those crosswalks, so everybody can see. So Mooj and Egoom can and Mother Fluffer can see where they're walking. And you'll notice that, like I said, if you layer over these Tombow shading markers, they will get darker and darker. So there are plenty of spots here. It's a spotty street at first, but I used a technique at the end to blend that together a little bit better, which I think really pays off. And you'll be able to see it just kind of all kind of come together, which is something I love when you get to the end of a piece and it just kind of comes together. There's a lot of tricks and tips that I've learned from other artists, and it can definitely add to a piece when you use more than just, if you're doing a mostly marker piece, you can definitely add to a piece when you bring in the colored pencils or even the watercolor mixed in with some of these markers or colored pencil pieces. One of the things I love most about working with markers is it's so calming. There's no water I love watercolor, but there's no water to worry about. There's no mixing of paints. It's just you grab the set of the colors that you want to use for the piece, and you go to it, and they're just right there at your hand. Now, what was that? The N89. It's a lighter tone than what I did the street with already, and I'm just kind of going over and blending it where it's a bit spotty, avoiding the darker spots, and then you'll see again I come back in with a white pencil later on to blend in the street a little bit even more and to lighten it up a little bit, because during the blending process with these markers it does get a little bit dark and doesn't show enough life and depth that a normal street would, with its divots and potholes and reflections. Now here's where we're getting a little detail for the trees. It's good you got to figure out where your light source is coming from, and for this piece, for the most part, and I'm still getting a hold of this, a handle of it. For the most part, the light is coming from the left side of the paper of the piece. That's where I decided. You can put it anywhere. So I'm darkening up the right side of the trees, because that's where the shade would be, away from the light. So I'm using this very dark, the moss green, and then I'm coming in with another mid-range between the two, the moss and the original green, and I'm pulling that moss, the dark green, into the lighter green, which is on the left side of the trees, just to give it, sort of blend it, give it more of a natural look instead of these stark, here's a dark spot, here's a light spot. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but if you start to work in your pieces, figuring out where the light is positioned, and then working from that point, you can add so much depth to your art, to your figures, to your pieces. Now here's that very light Tombow, the lighter of the two that I'm using, and I'm avoiding the windows because those windows would be shining light out, so they're not going to be shaded. But I'm darkening up that side, that right side of that building, which would be away from the light source, the sun, to show a shadow. So that whole right side of the building, of the piece, of the whole neighborhood area there, especially where that building is, that building would cast a shadow over almost the entire park, but I didn't add it all the way through. But I am the entire right side, the buildings, a little bit of the trees, and I'm going to come back in and give the trees a shadow as well, which will reflect where the light is coming from. Now, one thing that I still haven't gotten the courage to do is, obviously we're seeing light in these windows, which would normally imply that it's dark outside. Not necessarily, but for the most part, it would be dark outside if all those lights are on inside. And if we could see them as well as we can see them. So I haven't gotten the courage up to just make my sky a night sky and to work with that. I want to put more time into that, definitely. And because there's so much contrast you can show with a nighttime sky. And a nighttime sky doesn't have to be very dark or black or dark blue or anything. It could be different in so many ways. It could be purple, it could be pink. And now I'm just going back in. I'm showing a couple of those windows with that brush that are black. They're dark. Nobody's in there. Nobody's in those rooms. Nobody turned those lights on. And throwing just a few details in here or there that I thought would make the piece a little bit more dynamic, give it a little bit more depth. Got to check back in on those guys. They were just sitting there watching TV together on the couch, which is what they do all the time. It's so funny. Especially Mother Fluffer. She loves her programs. Now, as I was saying with the white, gel pens come in 5, 8, and 10 for white, and as far as I know. And I'm just going over where you can almost use it as an eraser, like right there on the tail, on the S and tails. There's a little too much black ink, so I used the white to just get rid of it. It's white out essentially, and I'm giving highlights in the door, on the door jambs, on the frames of the windows, just bringing out a few points where I want to draw your eye for just a second, and just show it's not just a line outlining a doorway or a window. There's actually a white wooden panel there of wood, of wood. It's a real window. And then I'm also using that right here to highlight the bricks and to give to take a little bit, to lighten up the brown and the red that I made so dark for the brick color. There you get to see a little bit of the mortar, and it gives a little bit of life to those cracks and to that damage on the buildings, to the age that I gave it, aging of the buildings. And then also the white on the tree here. Now I know that I said the light would be on the left side and the shade would be on the right. But what I'm doing is just creating a contrast here by adding white on the left side, along with the edge of the dark shade, to separate the tree from the building behind it that uses the same dark green. Otherwise, they kind of blend in together and your eye doesn't know what it's looking at or where the tree ends. Same with the trees that are in front of the green grass. Add a little bit of white, just makes it pop off of that green background a little bit more, so that your eye can see, oh, there's the outline of a tree. Now this Signo white pen is a different style. It's a different kind of ink. It leaves a bit of a gloss, whereas the gel pens dry pretty flat, no gloss. And I'm using this to just give a little bit of a pop to those the street crossings. And like I said, it's a different texture. It's also a different application because it's a thicker pen tip. And then I'm going through and I'm bringing out a little bit of the outline and detail of certain lines, street, sidewalk that I want to have a little bit more delineation between the building, between the grass areas and the street. The trees gives it a little bit more of a definition when to pull it away from the green grass. The windows, a little bit of outline on the white parts that I did. Now here's where, if you look at how it was a strange shape, and I wanted to even it out, which I should have done at the beginning. And I did that just by extending the grass area and the street into a more natural square now, the piece. Now I'm signing it because I think I'm done, but then I realized that I'm not. There was more that I wanted to do after I looked at it, which you should do. Just take a step back, go to the bathroom, get a drink, grab a little snack, and then come back, get some oats, and come back to your piece and look at it and be like, does it need anything or can I be done? You can be done anytime. But there were things about this that I knew I could make better. And so I'm using this white Prismacolor pencil to blend in and to lighten up the streets. And I think you'll see if you look at this finished product, if you back the video up and you look at what it was before I added the white pencil, you'll see the difference, the contrast. It's just blending it in a little bit, giving it making it less spotty. And I'm going to do the same thing with the grass using this very pale green Prismacolor pencil. And as I'm going over it, you'll see like it blending, and you'll see the blotchiness sort of disappear. And I'm using my finger to just kind of blend it in together a little bit in spots here and there. I really like this color pencil, this green. So it worked. Now, the last bit that I thought I had it done was the shadows of the trees I noticed were missing. And you notice once I got them in there, man, it just brought a lot of life to that piece. Look at those shadows, what they do for the life of the whole picture. And again, the light source is on the left, so the shadow would be cast going towards the right. I love it. I'm so glad I realized that because it really does make a difference. Just darkening up spots here and there, extending the shadow of the building for a similar reason. And that's it. Now that's the piece. I ended up 2-point perspective, really enjoying it, really enjoying 2-point perspective. And folks, I really enjoy, look at those guys. I really enjoy drawing those guys. That's what I enjoy. Egum, Mother Fluffer, and Mooj. Those are my little ones. I'm going to try to work them into every piece that I do from here on out. But thank you for tuning in so much to this new episode. Thank you for everybody who's followed the channel. If you want to help out the channel, follow, subscribe, like the videos, comment on the videos. I answer all the comments that you all post. If you want to help out the channel directly and help it grow, you can join my Patreon at patreon.com/Adam Crone. You can buy something from my Big Cartel store, adamcrone.bigcartel.com. Or you can reach out and ask me for a commission. I would love to do something for you, whether it's a scene like this or an animal or your animal or something else. But either way, folks, art is such a therapeutic tool, and I hope that you use it to help yourself, to help others, and just enjoy it and be calm with it. It's the calmest part of my day, and it's the most one of the most enjoyable parts of my day, next to spending it with my animals, my little ones. And I hope that you can find some kind of peace in it as well. And remember, we're learning together as we go, and I love that we can do that, and that's what this channel is about, learning as we go. So thank you for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Sit, Muji, sit. Good dog.